Hello and welcome to the first session of UMTS. So what we have studied in previous lecture. So I would like to just briefly give you an idea what we have studied through this video. Hello. Home stereos and digital MP. Call him up and you will tell him that just turn on Bluetooth, I'll send you a file range to some 100 meters. For example, when two devices first come within the range of one another, they can automatically query each other. But I think this, so what is radio? Or logical link transport and emulates E standard whenever possible. These are the adopted protocols. So what this called as WAP is actually a wireless application protocol or wire transfer. For example, for fax transfer, the when it transmit, that will also be used by all devices on this piconet. The radio designation as master makes this determination. Two networks get connected to each other. Support this relying the host software of each device would need to manage it. Using this approach, it is possible to join together numerous piconets into one large scatternet. Next and last is your piconet and scatter. So this all sum up to a Bluetooth, but there is much to learn about this Bluetooth. So we'll do this in the next class. So what I have done in previous and what we are doing now is actually not that much relevant, but I would like to just start with the new session of this lecture, which is actually a UMTS. So what is this UMTS? So UMTS is nothing but Universal Mobile Telecommunications Service. So under this section, what we are going to study, so there will be a huge list for UMTS, but it's not that much tough. The name suggests that it's actually a big task, but as you will study section by section, you will come to know that how easy this topic is. So first we are going to cover 3G UMTS Wcdma network architecture, then in second one 3G UMTS network constituents, then third one UMTS network architecture overview, 3G UMTS radio network subsystem, 3G UMTS core network, UMTS core networks. So this all thing will add up to a UMTS. So first we would start with the first session of the UMTS. So start with 3G UMTS Wcdma network architecture. So the UMTS 3G architecture is required to provide a great level of performance to that of the original GSM network. However, as many networks had migrated through the use of GPS or Edge, they already had the ability to carry the data. Accordingly, many of the elements required for Wcdma or UMTS network architecture were seen as a migration. This considerably reduced the cost of implementing the UMTS network, as many elements were in place or needed upgrading, with the one of the major aims of UMTS being to able carry data. The UMTS network architecture was designed to enable a considerable improvement in data performance over that provided for GSM. So this is all about the 3G UMTS WMS CDMA network architecture. So this is just a basic info. We'll get into the details of it. So next we'll have to move with the second section, the 3G UMTS network constituents and UMTS network architecture overview. So for that I think I need to switch to second. So first we'll cover up 3G UMTS network constituents. So what is all about it? So the UMTS network architecture can be divided into three main elements of the entire network. So what are these three elements? So first one is user equipment, that is UE. Then second one is radio network subsystem, that is RNS. And third one, and which is the most important part of your network, that is a core network. So we'll start with the user equipment. So what is this user equipment? So this both are combinedly covered. So first one is actually a user equipment. So what is user equipment? And I don't think there is anything called as user equipment in this diagram. So don't afraid of it. User equipment and MS, these are actually one and the same thing, but MS was to be called in your GSM architecture, and in UMTS it's actually called as UE. So how? So we'll clear it. So first one, so user equipment. The user equipment or UE is a name given to what was previously termed as mobile or cell phone. The new name was chosen because considerably greater functionality that the UE could have. It could also be anything between a mobile phone used for talking to a data terminal attached to a computer with no voice capability. So this is user equipment. So user equipment and MS is one and the same thing. So next, so radio network subsystem or RNS. The RNS is also known as UMTS radio access networks. So it's actually a UTRAN. So we'll write it down. So what is this? RNS is also called as, so this is UTRAN. So we'll once again go through it. So what is this UTRAN? So UTRAN is nothing but UMTS. You actually know it well, Universal Mobile Telecommunication Service. So UMTS, radio access network. So this is radio access network. So this is designated to UMTS, and RAN is radio access network. So whether you call it as UTRAN or UTRAN or RNS, it's one and the same thing. So RNS is also known as UMTS radio access network. UTRAN is equivalent to previously base station subsystem, or what you were previously calling it as BSS in GSM. So it provides and manages the air interface for the overall network. So what the functionality was carried out in BSS or in GSM, what BSS was doing is same functionality done by UTRAN or your RNS network. So what is a core network? So core network provides all the central processing, then management for the system. It's actually equivalent to GSM network switching subsystem, or which we were calling it as NSS. The core network is then the overall entity that interfaces to external network, including the public phone network, another cellular telecommunication network, what you can actually you were calling it as PSTN or PLMN, then ISDN, PSDN. So you better know at least these two: public switch telephone network, then integrated service digital network, and all this thing. So this is actually a connection oriented thing, which is the part of your core network. So we have covered up in the part MS, or you can call it as UE, RNS, and core network. So we'll elaborate in more detail. So next part is of this session is UMTS network architecture overview. So what is this all about? So we'll go in detail of user equipment first. So let's mark it user equipment. Okay, the user equipment or UE is the major element of the overall 3G UMTS network architecture. It forms the final interface with the user in the view of far greater number of applications and facilities that it can perform. The decision was made to call it a user equipment rather than a mobile. So however, it is essentially a handset in a broadest terminology. Although having the access to much higher speed data communication, it can be much more versatile, containing many more applications. It consists of variety of different elements, including RF circuitry, processing, then antenna, battery, and etc. So there are number of elements within the UE that can be considered separately. So we'll think of it that what is this RF circuitry and all this pre-processing or processing, antenna, and battery. So first we will cover up UE RF circuitry. So RF areas handle all the element of the signal, both for receiver and for the transmitter. One of the major challenge of RF power amplifier was to reduce the power consumption. The form of modulation used for WCDMA requires a use of linear amplifier. This inherently take more current than nonlinear amplifiers, which can be used for the form of modulation used on GSM. So what is this all thing sum ups that this what is this actually a UERF circuitry? So accordingly, to maintain a battery life, that's nothing but in your mobile communication or in whichever thing, so always it remains a problem that whenever you're using your phone, it's always a trouble that you need to charge your phone and use it everywhere. So accordingly, to maintain a battery life, um, measures were introduced into many of the design to ensure optimum efficiency. So in order to get that optimum efficiency, you need to have a proper UERF circuitry. So next, baseband processing. So what is baseband processing? The baseband signal processing consists mainly of digital circuitry. This is considerably more complicated than that used in phones for previously generations. Again, this has been optimized to reduce the current consumption as far as possible, because if you will consume a large current in this section, then obviously your phone battery, which was for example you were using it for 7 to 8 hours, which might get reduced down to some 5 to 6 hours. So these precautions are already taken. The next section is your battery. So while current consumption has been minimized as far as possible within the circuitry of the phone, there has been an increase in current drain on the battery, with the users expecting the same lifetime between the charging batteries as experienced on the previous generation phones. This has necessitated the use of new and improved battery technology. Now, lithium ion batteries are actually used. These phones remain small and relatively light while still retaining or even improving the overall life between the charges. So the next is universal subscriber identity. So USIM, universal subscriber identity module. So what is this USIM? The UE also contains a SIM card. So in each of our mobile phone we have a SIM card. Although the case of UMTS, it is termed as USIM, Universal Subscriber Identity Module. This is a more advanced version of SIM card used in GSM and other system, but embodies the same type of information. It contains the International Mobile Subscriber Identity Number, what you can call it as IMSI, as well as the Mobile Station International ISDN number, MSISDN. Other information that the USIM holds includes the preferred language to enable the correct language information to be displayed onto your device, especially when roaming, and a list of preferred and prohibited public land mobile networks. So that is a PLMN. So why this all stuff is required? For example, if you are moving from Maharashtra to Gujarat, so language changes to Marathi or any language to suppose to Gujarati. So you don't want that information to be in Gujarati because I don't understand it. So if my mobile language is in English and if I'm moving back to a Gujarat, it should not show me a Gujarati. So that's why the reason you need to have all the information in your USIM. So the USIM also contains a short message storage area that allows the messages to stay with the user even when the phone is changed. Similarly, phone book numbers and call information of the numbers of incoming and outgoing calls are stored. The UE can take a variety of forms, although the most common format is still a version of mobile phone. Although having many data capabilities, other broadband dongles are also being widely used. So this is all about your UMTS network architecture overview and the elements of it. So I think we should move to the next session. So what is the next session? Next session is your 3G UMTS radio network subsystem. So what is this? This is in this section actually of 3G UMTS WCDMA network that interfaces to both UE and core network. The overall radio access network, that is collectively all radio network subsystem, is known as UTRAN, UMTS radio access network. The radio network subsystem is also known as the UMTS radio access network or UTRAN, which we have already covered. So next one is 3G UMTS core network. So what is this 3G UMTS core network? So 3G UMTS core network architecture is a migration of the used for GSM with further elements to overlay to enable the additional functionality demanded by UMTS. In view of the different ways in which the data may be carried, the UMTS core network may be split into two different areas. So first one is circuit switching elements and second one is packet switching element. So what is this circuit switching elements? These elements are actually primarily based on GSM network entities and carry data in a circuit switch manner, that is a permanent channel for the duration of call. Then next, packet switch element. These network entities are designed to carry packet data. This enables much higher network usage as capacity can be shared and data is carried as packets which are routing according to their destination. So some network elements, particularly those are associated with registration, are shared by both domains and operate in the same way that they did with GSM. So this is all about your 3G UMTS core network. So we'll get back to the actual and main topic of your UMTS, that is the UMTS core network. So what is this UMTS core network? The circuit switch elements of the UMTS core network architecture includes the following network entities. So we are going to cover first this. So what it covers? So it's actually a MSC and GMSC. So these are actually a circuit switch elements of UMTS network that have the following parts which make which play the major role in that section. So mobile switching center, so this is essentially the same as that within the GSM and it manages the circuit switch calls under the way. Then GMSC, so it's actually a gateway MSC. So this is effectively the interface to the external network. Then in packet switch elements of the UMTS network, that includes following entities. I think I have some missed out some indentation. So it's actually a SGSN and GGSN. So what is this SGSN and GGSN? So SGSN is nothing but serving Gprs support node, that is SGSN, and your GGSN is actually a gateway Gprs support node. So what is this? So we'll get into details. So first, SGSN. So as the name implies, this entity was first developed when Gprs was introduced and its use had been carried over to its UMTS network architecture. The SGSN provides a number of functions within the UMTS network architecture. So we'll cover up some of them. So first one is your mobility management. So what is this mobility management? When a UE is attached to a packet switch domain of UMTS core network, the SGSN generates information based on the mobile's current location. Then second one is your session management. So what is session management? This SGSN manages the data sessions, providing the required quality of service and also managing what are termed as the PDP, the packet data protocol context, that is the pipes over which the data is sent. The next one is your interaction. Interaction is actually I have written just interaction, but it's not just interaction, it's interaction with the other areas of the network. The SGSN is able to manage its elements within the network only by communicating with other areas of the network, for example MSC and other circuit switches area. And then the last and most important, billing. So what is billing? The SGSN is also responsible for billing. It achieves this by monitoring the flow of user data across the Gprs network. So CDR, that is nothing but your call detail records, are generated by SGSN. So before being transferred to the charging entities, that is nothing but your charging gateway function, CGF. So this all information is stored with your billing. So next one is your GGSN. So GGSN, so gateway Gprs support node. Like SGSN, this entity was also first introduced in Gprs network. The gateway Gprs support node is the central element within the UMTS packet switch network. It handles the inner working between the UMTS packet switch network and external packet switch network, and can be considered as a very sophisticated router in operation. When the GGSN receives the data address to a specific user, it checks if the user is active and then forwards the data to SGSN serving the particular UE. So there are some of the shared elements within this network. So what is this shared network? So it's actually your HLR, EIR, then AUC. So what is this HLR, EIR and AUC? So HLR is nothing but home location register, which you have already known to it in GSM architecture. Then equipment identity register, that is nothing but your what you can call it as your unique identity is stored with this, or you can call it as your equipment identity register, in which your all information is stored. And then next one is your AUC, that is nothing but Authentication Center. So what is this home location register? So home location register, this database contains all the administrative information about each subscriber along with their last known location. So if you are moving from X station to Y station, all the information is actually stored. In this way, the UMTS network is able to route a call to the relevant RNC, or what you call it as node B. When a user switches on their UE, it registers with the network, and from this it is possible to determine which node B it communicates with, so that incoming calls can be routed appropriately. Even when the UE is not active but switched on, it re-registered periodically to ensure that the network, or that HLR, home location register, is aware of it, the latest position with the current or the last known location, so that you will get a continuous operation, or continuous what do you call it as a continuous range, or it's actually not a range, it's actually a signal strength, which is determined by this continuous synchronized operation. So next is EIR. So what is this EIR? So the EIR is nothing but equipment identity register. The EIR is the entity that decides whether a given UE or UE equipment may be allowed onto a network. Each UE equipment has a number known as the International Mobile Equipment Identity. This number, as mentioned already, is installed in an equipment and is checked by the network during the registration. This registration is nothing but actually when you turn on your phone, this all procedure gets started automatically. So what you think of is just starting your phone and showing some logo of that company, of which brand you're using your phone. So it gets startup, then you directly get that signal strength of any service provider. But this is just a front end, but in back end, this all procedure is carried out by your UMTS network, or your HLR and VLR and Authentication Center in GSM. The same working culture is actually with the UMTS core network. So next and major important topic of the UMTS core network, it's actually a Authentication Center. So what is this actually a Authentication Center? So this Authentication Center is nothing but where you are protected such that your information is not lost, and plus AUC is protected database that contains a secret key also contained in user's USIM card, so that it's a bidirectional verification. So if this is your device and this is your database, if you have a unique code as 1, it's already stored in database as 1, so it's a bidirectional procedure. If you have code as 1, they will check into database that whether the person is authentic or not. If yes, then it will give you a feedback that yes, this is an authentic person, so I should give him a signal strength. So this registration process is quite automatic, so there you should not actually make a sense that I should register it manually or all these things. This is actually a backend stuff carried out in GSM core network. This is actually quite similar to that of your GSM, but yes, obviously UMTS core network is quite somewhat different to the GSM. So this is all about your UMTS network. Hope so you got some chunks about this UMTS core network. We'll get into the details of this UMTS in the next session. So I would say thank you.